Texas's Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton is suing 2 counties to block local officials' plan to mail thousands of voter registration forms to residents.
Presidential race looks much closer than most people think it would in Texas, and it's all because of the kind of Republicans like Ken Paxton, like Greg Abbott, who are fighting against democracy rather than trying to persuade this emerging new electorate to support them.
I'm Sophie from Democracy Docket. Let's break down what's going on in Texas. Paxton sued 2 of Texas's most populous counties, Bexar County and Travis County, which are home to San Antonio and Austin, respectively, for their voter registration efforts. The Republican official first sued Bexar County last week after the county commissioner's court voted 3-1 to hire a third-party vendor, Civic Government Solutions, or CGS, for $392,700 to print and send out 210,000 voter registration applications to residents who are eligible but not yet registered. According to the complaint in Travis County, the contract tasks CGS with identifying any current Travis County resident that is 18 years of age, a U.S. citizen, and not already registered to vote. Paxton's lawsuit alleges that Bexar County is violating state law by sending voter registration forms to residents unsolicited. In a press release, the state claims that sending these forms could allow felons and non-citizens to register, and ended with, "It is more important than ever that we maintain the integrity of our voter rolls and ensure only eligible voters decide our elections." During a public meeting at the Bexar County Commissioner's Court, several members of the county also echoed these claims, saying that this third-party vendor is a partisan organization based on comments that CGS's CEO made on a podcast. The plan to send these registration forms will cause immense amounts of voter fraud and will illegally add non-citizens to the rolls, and disapproved of using taxpayer money for this purpose.
Highly partisan group, and they have no safeguards built in their purchase order to prevent non-citizens and illegal aliens, which we know have come across the border in millions, from receiving voter applications.
That we uphold not just the election integrity, but protect the taxpayer funds that were not meant for partisan issues. It would be a very different story if all of a sudden we had one side of the political spectrum being considered to go out there and harvest election applications.
Let's first make one thing clear. Just because someone was sent a voter registration application does not mean they will be allowed to register and vote. At the meeting, Bexar County Election Administrator Jacqueline Callanan testified that every voter registration application goes through numerous steps at both the local level and the state level, scrutinizing every aspect of the application to ensure the integrity of the application and the eligibility of the voter.
I want you to understand, when we receive a voter registration card, our office processes that card, and we're required to send it up to the Secretary of State. And they are the ones that check the data. They check for SSN, they check for TDL, they check birth dates, and they check citizenship. If they pass all of those, they send it back to us with a voter unique identifier, that voter registration number. We cannot assign a voter registration number until it has gone through all of those checks and balances.
Callanan expressed concern over the proposal, not because it would facilitate fraud in any way, but that the process of verifying and approving voter registration applications has so many steps that she fears it will be burdensome on election officials to carry out so many requests in a short period of time, since Texas's registration deadline this year is October 7th.
Or my ask for you is, if you go forward with this, I would like you to also authorize staff, money to pay the staff, money for postage, as we have to reach out to these people again and again.
Nevertheless, Paxton's lawsuit asks the court for an emergency ruling to block Bexar County from giving a partisan organization, in violation of state and local procurement procedures, hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to mail unsolicited voter registration applications to an untold number of Bexar County residents, regardless of whether those residents have requested such an application or are even eligible to vote. Defendants' actions will create create confusion, facilitate fraud, undermine confidence in elections, and are illegal acts because they exceeded statutory authority. Days after filing the lawsuit in Bexar County, Paxton's office sued Travis County to block a similar registration effort. Travis County's plan, which was passed last month, involves hiring the same group, CGS, to identify eligible voters who aren't registered yet. The suit, similar to the Bexar County lawsuit, alleges that this plan will create confusion, facilitate fraud, undermine confidence in elections, and that the county doesn't have the legal authority to use taxpayer money for this purpose. In a statement to Democracy Docket, a spokesperson for Travis County said, "It's disappointing that any statewide elected official would prefer to sow distrust and discourage participation in the electoral process. Travis County is committed to encouraging voter participation, and we are proud of our outreach efforts that achieve higher voter registration numbers." Paxton has also sent a letter to Harris County, home to Houston, threatening legal action if officials approve a similar voter registration effort. Just weeks before Paxton filed these lawsuits targeting voter registration, his office raided the homes of several Latino civil rights activists on the false premise of investigating voter fraud.
In the pantheon of despicable people, I mean, Texas has got a lot in the running. I mean, you've got Ted Cruz, who, you know, might be the most despised member of the United States Senate. You've got Greg Abbott, who could be the worst governor in the state. But I have to say, pound for pound, the worst statewide elected official in the state of Texas is definitely Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, who is no friend of democracy and whose office launched these raids against civil rights workers and volunteers and activists who are doing nothing wrong. They are simply trying to register people to vote. I mean, one of them, according to news reports, was an 87-year-old woman who has been registering people to vote. And that is who they are targeting in the state of Texas. That is how Ken Paxton is running his office in the state of Texas. It is an absolute disgrace.
Around the same time that these raids were taking place, Texas's Republican Governor Greg Abbott announced that the state has removed over 1 million people from the voter rolls after Republican lawmakers passed a massive voter suppression law years ago. As we discussed in a previous video, this was likely mostly just routine list maintenance. But instead of focusing on the huge number of new voters that Texas has registered in the past few years, Abbott decided to issue a press release boasting the number of voters that his administration had removed.
And this is the tragedy of our democracy today. Because here you have a Republican governor of one of the fastest growing states in the country, one of the most diverse electorates in the country, who is celebrating the fact that they have removed 1 million people and not celebrating how many people they have added to the rolls. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why wouldn't Greg Abbott want to celebrate the good news, which is the growth of Texas, the growing expanded electorate in Texas? And the answer is because the voters who are registering in Texas are not his voters. They are younger than the average voter in Texas. They are more likely to be Hispanic and Latino than the average voter in Texas. They are likely as a whole to be diverse voters or minority voters rather than white voters. This is the tragedy of the Republican Party of Texas, and we've seen this in redistricting, where, you know, for the last 2 cycles, you have seen the addition of congressional districts in Texas, and almost entirely based on the growth of the Latino population. Yet you have Republicans who continue to gerrymander and gerrymander and gerrymander. It should be a national scandal on the front page of every news outlet right now. What is happening in the state of Texas between Greg Abbott's announcement and taking pride in, as you say, what is likely a lot of routine maintenance, but he wants to seem like he is purging voters. And then you have Ken Paxton actually engaged in activity that should shock any decent person's conscience, that 70 days or so before an election, this is how the AG is conducting itself. This is how they are spending taxpayer money in Texas.
Thanks for watching Democracy Docket. If you want to stay up to date on the latest voting and election news in the courts, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter, so you can click the link right here on the screen or in the description of this video. I'm Sophie, and I'll see you next time.